Stefan, tell us why you're so passionate about what you do.
Well, it's a great question, and it has a bit to do with who I am. I grew up in Vermont, and it's a rural little state, and it's a passionate little state. It likes to be independent of the rest of the states. There are many places like that in the world, and I think, having traveled a lot throughout my life, I've recognized that there is a reason for some of this passion that people carry. And for me, I became, at a pretty young age, pretty passionate about the forests and about exploring the outdoors and the natural world. And I have a 5-year-old daughter now. And she's going to school, she's in kindergarten, and what I'm recognizing is that there's a real disconnect between children and the natural world these days. And there's a real disconnect between our buildings and built environment and the natural world. And we have a pretty severe impact in the construction and architectural industries. So much so that when you look at energy consumption in the United States, 50% of it comes from buildings. And if you're concerned about carbon output, then that's the primary contributor. So if you look at how we impact the environment, the Department of Environmental Quality here in Oregon, DEQ, did a big study. They did a study on residential waste impacts from residential construction waste. And the hypothesis would be that, the biggest impacts might be vinyl or carpet or some of these products that we know are a little bit more toxic, and they end up in landfills. Well, it turned out that when they did their study, the number one impact was square footage. And
Whoa.
The reason for that is because buildings consume a lot of energy. And I became really passionate at a pretty young age about conserving my ability to explore the natural world. And my passion really exists there. So I'm in the industry that has the highest negative impact right now when you look at where all of its materials come from globally, and how it affects energy and water locally. And I decided there's got to be a way to create buildings that are healthy and comfortable for the occupants and healthy for the environment. And that's not easy to do. In fact, we're still really far from it. So I would say that sustainable and building is not really two words that are joined yet. Neither would I say that it's really truly green building yet. I would say that we've got a path for better buildings, and there's a way to create buildings that are resilient and regenerative, like you would see most everything in nature. And
right.
I believe if we can create buildings that more mimic nature, not necessarily look like it or feel like it, however, I'm not opposed to it either. But if we can create buildings that mimic nature in a positive way and relate in a positive way, then I think we can live in a better harmony, which when I look at my daughter, I think that's really important.
Do you feel like you're a pioneer?
When it comes to being a pioneer, I definitely, at one point, really considered that I was. And I guess to a degree I still do in a different way. When I started the company, it was about being a green hammer. And we were a building company, and we were focused on higher performance buildings with healthier materials and that sort of thing. And it was a path in a direction. And what I recognize is that there are a lot of people who are passionate, and there are a lot of pioneers who are really doing that. And what I really figured out is that one of the things that our industry struggles with is just how you do that effectively, and how you do it in such an extraordinarily competitive market and still bring the value that needs to be brought to the table and that people can still afford. And that's where the unified design build process comes into play for us, about making sure we're always in alignment and moving forward together with our clients. And in that realm, I think we're pioneering again.
Do you think it saves people money by having one company handle all aspects of a project?
You get the best value. So at the end of the day, when everything's designed and built and you're living in the space, whether it's costs less money, was done faster, or simply has that much more for the amount you put in. So it's not necessarily if it was a $500,000 home or $1 million project or whatever else, the results of a unified design build process are going to be better for the amount you put in. And I'm convinced of that 110%. And I would say there's the ability to deliver at a much higher level more quickly, because you're able to understand where you can be lean in details on a plan set and where you really should not ever be lean on the plan set. And that takes a real team constantly working together to understand those best points.
Do you put on classes, to teach people about green construction?
So I instruct for Earth Advantage, and Earth Advantage is native to Oregon.
Right.
Earth Advantage is a really, really great organization. They have their own Earth Advantage standard, and you'll see a lot of homes certified to Earth Advantage, and I highly recommend it because there are incentives to the builders who build those homes. And if done well and wisely, certainly for us, we certify every single building moving forward to Earth Advantage. So not everything we've done in the past, but it's our policy now that every project we do is Earth Advantage certified. And the reason for that is we can do it without charging more for the project. And in the end, those homes sell 10% faster, and they also move off the market faster. And you probably experienced this in your own.
Yes, we have. We have. Tell us about yourself and the values that your company has. Why do you think you're here on the earth? That's a big question.
Yeah. I'd like to say I knew why I was on the earth, I just read The Little Prince to my daughter. I don't know if you've ever read The Little Prince. It's a fantastic story about, this kind of alien being that comes down and affects this man deeply. And I'd like to think that I'm here to do that. Not necessarily that I'm a little alien prince that's come and landed on the planet, but I want to affect people deeply. And I want to affect the long term deeply. And we've created a company that's really, it's about team orientation. We're a unified company, and our whole reason for being is to create inspiring, healthy, comfortable buildings and do it in a way that is in harmony with the natural world, and do it in a way that actually helps regenerate the natural world and create a resilient and regenerative, not only economy, but communities. So as much as we can create regenerative, resilient buildings and communities, I feel like I'll have that deep impact. And I can read that book and question why we might be here and where we might go. And just think, well, while I was here, I believed in something and I did everything I could to have a positive impact. And I can look my daughter in the face and say, this company's really been designed to do everything that you would need us to do for the future, and feel good about it.
That's beautiful. That's great. Thank you.